Are you ready to get stuck into it?
Ready to go.
All right, let's go. Welcome to Pain in the Arts, where the pursuit of meaningful art meets the unpredictable demands of real life.
I'm Brea.
And I am Lyndon.
Thank you for joining us. Busy day today?
No.
No, not for you?
No.
Oh, that's good.
I don't subscribe to being busy anymore.
Lucky for some, I guess.
I just I waver between being semi-retired and overwhelmed.
Striking the balance there.
That's my constant state of being. Everything's great till it isn't. And, yeah.
Well, I feel like I've flip-flopped around today doing, well, I suppose wearing all the different hats. I've pulled a night shift with Birdie, and then I've jumped on in to consult with a new client for my copywriting business. Then I've prepared an episode that I will be shortly bringing to the studio here, which has been good, but I believe it was your week.
Yeah.
So I guess you were more into the semi-retirement.
Well, like I said in previous episodes, it doesn't matter whose week it was. What's important is that we alternate at some point.
Right. Well, there you go. Well, today I'm on fire, clearly.
Who's counting? Not me.
Well,
I have had a week of, let's just say in summary, a week of looking at getting a second-hand car, offering someone the money they wanted and not selling it to me. So that was new.
yeah.
But so the hunt continues for a second car.
For the gas guzzler that we're after. Yep.
Do you remember the time when we just had one car?
No. When?
No, me either.
We've never had one.
Well, we had one car each. Okay, so nothing's changed.
So, and when you say second car, it's actually our third car. We already have two cars.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, though. We work from home, so the cars aren't getting used. Like the second car, let's say, it doesn't get used much. So it's really more of a lifestyle vehicle. Anyway.
Yes, I think that's taken up quite a lot of your headspace this week, trying to negotiate with somebody who offered a roadworthy but wasn't prepared to actually come through with it. I think that was the hitch point.
Anywho, so yeah, that's got me all in a frazzle.
It has. I think you've lost many nights' sleep over it.
I did actually. There was 2 nights in particular I did. Anyway, it's just my personality. It's who I am. There's nothing wrong with me, and I really take umbrage to the fact that you would suggest that I need to seek help. Anyway, what
are we talking about today?
What's your gem? What are you bringing today?
Today we are talking about money, which,
well, there you go.
Well, I guess
story about the car was on topic.
Timely.
There you go.
Today is about art and the hustle of making it all work. I started to prepare this topic just because generally it's relevant to artists, people that are trying to create something but also make a living and so on. But as I was going along, I realised that it's actually quite timely because one of our sons is trying to figure out what to do once he finishes school. He's in his last year of school, so ideally he'd love to be a drummer full-time and not have to worry about other work, but we have this not very fun position of trying to encourage him to pursue your music, but also you're going to have to, if you don't want to move out, if you want to buy a car, if you want to do these things, you've got to make a living as well. So it is the endless struggle of artists, I think, to juggle the two things. And, yeah, timely for our son and perpetually a topic that we have come up with again and again and again in our lives of just trying to make ends meet and still give time and dedication to our art. So that's what we're talking about, money.
So I don't really have a leg to stand on because,
What do you mean?
well, because I remember thinking the same way as our son, and yeah, I had jobs and things that I was doing, but music was the main focus. So I was working at 7-Eleven and I was a guitar teacher. Those were the two jobs that I had. And I was living on my own. So I was, 18 and living in a unit, renting. So, I had to make ends meet, and I couldn't have done it just with my original music. That's for sure. In fact, if I remember back to the days of where I was really started getting serious about promoting myself and so on, like every time I did a gig, it cost me money.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so I was saying, like, where do I stand in actually encouraging him to – I certainly won't be encouraging him to not be a drummer. But, yeah, it is when you're that age and you've got so much passion about this one thing, it's really hard to see beyond that until you are in a position where you have to pay the rent.
Yeah, I know.
And you have to put food on the table, and that's probably the only thing that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be nice if we didn't have to make those choices or think that way of like compromising the artistic pursuit in order to just make ends meet. But somehow our society's organised itself in a way that means that we have to do it like that. I don't know why, but it is like that. There's talk now of implementing the universal basic income, which would be pretty great, but from my point of view anyway. But until that happens, I guess we'll have to.
Universal basic income.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a pretty tough ask.
It would be, I know. So,
but Brian Eno,
some ideas until we get there.
Brian Eno is a firm believer in it's better to have deadlines and a small budget than it is to sort of have a massive budget and no deadlines. So Brian Eno, for anyone that doesn't know, is among other things, is a music producer. So he's produced so many things that you would know. David Bowie, U2, just to name a couple.
Yeah.
And he's a very critical thinker. But so he's definitely a firm believer in that. Like you were just talking about, why society is, what were you saying? It would be nice to just be able to not have to worry about money and just be able to focus on your art. But, that's what made me think of Brian Eno, because in that situation, you've just got, copious, endless amounts of time. And for someone like me, I'd probably never finish anything. I really do need a deadline, and I think that's probably true for people in any field.
I guess so, deadlines and budgets, are the constraints that do, make you knuckle down and get something done, get things
and
finished.
The budget's a big one. As you know, this week I've been back looking at grants, and I didn't realise how many artists actually in Australia anyway are, I'm going to say maybe not surviving off of grants, but certainly grants make up a big part of their, if not their annual income, it certainly makes up a big part of them being able to create and continue creating,
Yeah.
So I know something I've come across starting this studio here at Morning Phase is I've had a couple of people that were super keen to record with me, but it all comes down to budget. And I don't mean that because I've priced myself out of the market. It's literally them saying, okay, if I record and put money into this, that means I don't have money for something else that I really need it for.
Yeah.
And so that's what started me looking at grants again.
Yeah. Grants are a good way to finance projects and get things done.
They're just very intimidating when when you've got to sit down and write them.
I
so
know. I'm thinking of doing a bit of a deep dive into grant writing, because as a copywriter I write a lot of things, but grants is not one of the things I've specialised in. So I've turned away a couple of clients because I've just said, look, find somebody that does has written grants and has specialised in it. But maybe it's something that I should. I don't know. Maybe I will for you, and then perhaps extend my services.
Well, I was in a, what do you call that? I was in a Ask Me Anything group chat with with Isabella Manfredi, who is just a fantastic Australian singer and songwriter. She was saying to me that she was saying to the group, I should say, that it's a full-time job writing grants. So you don't just sort of write one or two and then cross your fingers and hope for the best. It needs to be part of your annual activity.
Yeah, you'd be constantly looking for the next one to do. Yeah,
so that's
absolutely
what I'm looking at doing now, because if I can get a grant, a budget, to record an artist, that means I can offer my services to someone and we can create something great together. We can collaborate, and it's not going to. They can do that without the worries of all the stresses of
the studio
funding
cost,
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, there's
I've
one.
derailed your topic right from the outset.
Well, you haven't, because that was going to be within it is grants, one of the things. But I've sort of got a number of ways, I guess, of not making money. It's not just like ideas for making money, but it's ways in which artists do fund themselves and do make life work that I just thought we could discuss. And as I was doing the research and putting them all down, I realised between us we've sort of done a number of them, sort of dabbled in quite a lot of them. So, and I would say a lot of our friends have as well in the artistic community. You just try to find all these different ways of making life work. I mean, the first one, which would be ideal, which our son would love to do, is just doing your art and getting paid for it. So whether you're a writer or a musician or a visual artist of some description, like just pursue that golden, like, artistic dream that you have, chase down those ideas and get them done and actually be recognised for that specific work, no other side hustles or anything. So that would be lovely. We haven't managed to do that one.
While you're saying it, I was thinking how I imagine the people that has happened for have possibly had zero regard for the outcome. So, when you were saying, and that's what they'd be noted for, to just to do this one thing, that's what you do. It can even be unique to you, and that's what you get known for. I just can't imagine that anyone that has happened for, that they've thought about it that far ahead.
No, it seems to be, well, not always, certainly, but
as in the commerce side of it, hasn't bothered them.
Been the first thing.
Mind you, other things sort of suffer and fall away historically. You do have to make a sacrifice of living well below your means for as long as it takes, potentially forever, and not everyone is up to that.
Yeah. And even then, I think it's, I know for writers it can be a hard thing. Like, you write a first book and it sort of gets some notoriety and you might win a prize or something, or, you get a publishing deal. The pressure is on to write that second book and have that also be as good a quality, like have every single year publishing a book, to be able to build that body of work that then will bring in that income stream over time. But in the meantime, it can be extremely hard, and life can be compromised, I guess.
Yeah, and I generalised too. A couple of people popped into my head that I thought, well, maybe they're doing it.
Yeah, so that would be, great to be able to just focus on that art and, have it almost incidentally bring you financial stability. So, I guess we'd want to encourage all our friends or all artists that are doing stuff to really be able to focus on that, even if you've got to take some of these other measures as well at the same time. Yeah, to go for the purity of the art that you are wanting to create. The second thing I wanted to talk about was, I guess, freelancing and the gig economy. It's not something we've always been doing, but certainly is at the moment. You can do, like a freelancing type job with your artistic skills and sort of build a business that way. That's what I've done with my copywriting business. If you're a visual artist, you could be doing illustrations or graphic design work, or there's music production, obviously, writing music for jingles and other artists and all that kind of thing. So there's always opportunities there, I suppose, if you're willing to look for those things.
The opportunities are endless.
They are endless, yeah.
Often too, I think in the gig economy, it does allow for creativity. You could just about find someone making money from anything.
Just about, yeah.
It's just a matter of working out what that could be, some lateral thinking. I mean, I guess the smart way would be to see where an opening in the market is. But even then, like with some things you're not going to see like an opening if it's not your run-of-the-mill regular kind of thing.
Yeah, I think sometimes artists just find that they're commissioned to do stuff and then more work finds its way to them, like, and they end up opening a niche for themselves in that way. Or else it's a strategic kind of thing of going, hey, I've got to make some money. How am I going to do it? I think the thing that we found with working this way, it's really good. It's a good way to be using your skills and at least stay in the sort of stream of the arts that you enjoy doing to make money. But it does seem to take a lot of time and effort and focus. And so when you end up building a business, you need to figure out things like invoicing and contracts and things like that. So you do end up spending a lot of time on the business of making your art available to others. But, it is a good way to do it. You can build good portfolios of your skills to show what you're doing across different sort of networks and so on. You can use platforms like Upwork or Fiverr to connect with potential clients that are looking for your creative skill set. If you create a brand consistency across all your marketing and what you're doing, people will find you and start to look for what you do rather than you having to sort of bend to what other people want. So that can be a good way to work.
Yeah, I was just thinking that in the gig economy, sometimes what people will do, and I guess I'm doing this to a degree, is you'll take a facet of what you do artistically and that becomes the gig, or that's the part of it that you monetize.
Yeah,
and you see this with artists online, So I'm thinking about when you see painters and illustrators online, and they may have a particular way that they like to work that they're not going to sell. They're certainly not going to be like making prints of it and so on. But then there's another aspect to their work where they do make the prints and they do sell those, and they might sell them as postcards and tea towels and who knows.
That's actually leading into my next sort of point is diversifying income streams. Yeah, selling prints or homemade arts through Etsy and local markets and so on. If you're not a visual artist, you can develop and sell like digital products like ebooks to reach quite a wide audience and scale up your income. There's also like running workshops and creating online courses, and online courses are huge at the moment, and that is with anyone, whatever your skill set is, health, any sort of industry that you can think of, you can make a course about it and run one for other people that want to do that as a freelancer. So that is something that is explosive at the moment.
I even noticed that there's a niche on YouTube of retired people encouraging each other to create a YouTube channel because they go, you know what, it's predominantly been the space for 20, 30-year-olds, but we've got something to offer. We've got our life experience.
Yeah.
So if you're into, I saw a guy and I think he was particularly into cycling.
Yeah.
He'd worked as a corporate guy, but he had this passion for cycling. And so he thought, if I do a YouTube channel about that, my time is my own rather than if I work part-time in a cycle shop.
Yeah, right.
That was sort of his thinking. And he said he had a mate who was a fly fisher, but he made his own flies like a lot of fly fishing people do.
Yeah.
But he had a particular real niche about, I don't know if it was the fly or the rods that he used. And so he was doing a channel to do with that. And I thought that was really interesting that there was this whole other demographic of people that were finding an outlet in a medium that was unfamiliar to them, but that actually served them and potentially could bring them in enough of a side income in their retired years that they didn't have to go and work in a bricks and mortar store or something like that.
Yeah.
So, that's
definitely a good way to make something fun and potentially get an income.
Those retired people taking all our jobs.
Oh dear, mate, taking up all of the YouTube channels that there are.
Yeah. Get out of our digital space.
Go find your own niche.
Go create your own interweb.
So looking at how can you diversify the income that you're making, or if you've got a product or if you've got a service, can you reimagine it so that it fits a different market, or you can package it in a different way so that, you can sell it in a different kind of way and different space. So that's a good way to do it. There's also residual income opportunities, which that'd be the life. Like, that'd be awesome.
Residuals.
So things that generate income over time, like stock photography even, or licensing your artworks, and obviously things like royalties from books on music, which we'd love to be doing at some point. So, just those passive income streams can support your long-term financial stability. If you think about licensing your artwork for things like prints and apparel or home decor.
Decor.
I can't say decor. It's home decor.
I believe it's decor, but say decor if you want. Home decor.
I can't talk. Visual artists can license their artwork for merchandise such as prints and home decor, getting some ongoing income through royalties, although I seem to find a lot of visual artists who are just doing their own artwork, they'll get their works like stolen literally by unethical brands who then just use their designs, on T-shirts and beach towels and whatnot. So that can be
it's always
heartbreaking.
A risk.
Yeah, so not good. And if you're a writer, you can write and self-publish books or ebooks. You can create audiobooks also. And you can get direct sales and long-term royalties.
I feel so like all of this is true. This is what's this all fall under the banner of diversifying?
Embracing residual income opportunities is what I've written it as.
Residual income opportunities. I don't know. It's all true. It's just strange just talking about it like when you just hear one thing after the other. It's so de-energizing, isn't it? It just seems so, I don't know, why is that?
Well, maybe because we kind of know from experience how much effort it is to get to these things. Like, it sounds great, like, oh, awesome, residual income. Like, great, create something and then just put it out there in the world and the money will just continually flow in. And we know that it's not really like that. You've got to keep marketing. You've got to keep working at stuff all the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But I don't think that's what I was touching on. I think I'm touching on the fact that if we were talking about the inspiration behind a work or the genesis of an idea or how something came to be, like, I would find that really energizing. But when we're actually talking about all these different avenues and things of making money from it, it's just I have a completely I just have a different feeling about it.
And I feel like that's been how we've the struggle that we've had always is like we get inspired about the work and the ideas, and then obviously trying to make ends meet crops up. So then you go, oh well, can we make money somehow through the art or through changing things or do and it just it just ends up in a cycle. We're constantly trying to do the things that energize us and feel inspiring and bringing something to life in this world. And then the flip side of it is that it's also nice to have nice things, keep the lights on.
There's just not enough hours in the day. I went and saw a singer-songwriter last week, Carlo, and rocked up to his gig in Brunswick.
Carlo's lovely. He's been here at Morning Phase Studios doing a little bit of demo work, and it's been great to have him.
And he was saying that, just talking about the slog of getting a gig and how many emails and phone calls you've got to make just to get that one gig, and that once you've got those gigs, you still need to keep doing that. It's endless.
That's right, because they come and they go and then they're done.
But today when I was doing some editing and I realised I hadn't played guitar or done anything really musical for at least 24 hours, I was just thinking about balance. And everything always comes back to balance, like understanding what fills you up and what depletes you. And for me to join the dots between what I do creatively and where the money comes in, I need to be filled up first. So if I spend too many days in a row without that need being filled, I can't do the other side of that equation.
Yeah.
In the example of Carlo, like sending an email and calling someone, it's not actually that hard to do. But man, it can feel like it's
pretty weighty. You do
such a difficult thing to even pick up the phone.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that while you're talking about all this stuff, it's the same sort of feelings coming into me. I just thought it was worth worth mentioning.
Yeah. And I guess in this topic, we don't want it to just be like this down vibe of like, find a way to pay your rent because you'll have to find some way. So,
Well, when I was talking to Carlo, he'd put a post up the week before that gig just saying how he had been thinking about throwing it all in after 3 years, but just so many mixed results and so many ups and downs along the way. And it was really sort of starting to wear on him, understandably, and nothing to do with his talent at all. It's just the reality of living that life.
Absolutely.
And then the day that he was seriously thinking about quitting, he got an invitation to play at a music festival, and then that bolstered him up again and gave him the encouragement that he needed to continue on. And when we were talking after his gig, I said, that happens all the time. Like, that's the life of an artist. It's up and down all the time, and you need the highs to sustain you through the lows. And I said, but the question you need to resolve within yourself is, will you ever stop doing it? Like, are you prepared to not be a singer, or are you ever going to stop writing songs,
Yeah.
And he couldn't answer yes to that. Of course he's not.
No.
So once you've got to that point, you go, well, actually, well, this is me. I am going to be doing this the rest of my life.
It's not
it
really a
reframes the whole
choice.
thing for you and go, okay, well, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And
there's going to be.
And then guess what? You got to remind yourself of that every couple of years when you go, why am I doing this again? It's because you knew that you're always going to, oh, okay, that's right. And then you keep going.
Yeah. I think if you know artists, you know them as artists. Like, it doesn't even matter if they're doing a different job at the time. You kind of know that's what's within them. Like, I don't think I could ever see you as not a musician at some point,
I like to think that that's true, but I have to say, when I was doing coffee and when people knew I had a coffee van
and they saw you
and they hadn't seen me for a while even, and people go, this is a question I got a lot. People that hadn't seen me for a while. Do you still have the coffee van? Nothing about my music.
Yeah.
Right? It was, have you got the coffee van, or how's the coffee van going? Or it was always to do with coffee. And I loved being known as the caffeinator by my customers. Once I'd finished doing that, because that was the day job, I didn't want to be known as the caffeinator.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be known as the coffee guy.
Yeah.
And it really bothered me that what I was really passionate about and what I'd actually devoted my whole life to for decades before I even decided to run a coffee van in the mornings wasn't being acknowledged. It wasn't being asked about. No one cared.
Yeah.
And that was for, a decade.
Yeah.
That's how it felt. And so, I don't know.
Yeah, well, we're kind of getting off topic, and perhaps we can do an episode on
Guilty. Put my hand up.
Guilty forever. We could do an episode on identity, I think, which would be really good. I certainly relate, because for so long all I was asked about were the children because I was a mother, and that's, it was like that's all people would see is that.
Yeah, and that's a common thing with mothers, isn't it? Especially if they did have a career.
Yeah. And
true. Well, we could do an episode on that.
I think we should.
I could sit that one out.
Well, we could talk a lot more about that, I think, because that is really integral. All right, let's talk about another way of making ends meet, which we also are dabbling in at the moment, and that's crowdfunding and patronage. So there's platforms such as Patreon, Kickstarter and GoFundMe where you can secure financial support directly from fans and supporters. So that's definitely a way to do things. There's a lot of really great Patreon accounts where artists are pursuing what they are interested in, and super fans will find them from all over the world and just get behind it and pay a few dollars a month just to see them fulfilling that dream. Or if you've got a certain project that you want to get finished that's going to, cost money for materials or whatever, a GoFundMe is a great way to do that.
So that's right. The GoFundMe and the Kickstarters seem to be very project oriented.
Yeah.
Whereas something like Patreon or Substack for writers is popular. Subscription models.
Yep.
And I know with Patreon it was a platform to connect artists and creative people directly with their fans. So it was set up for creatives. It wasn't set up for any other reason. I think Substack possibly as well, but predominantly for writers. So anyway, but yeah, they're the two different models that
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so the sort of,
exist.
the project-based and then the ongoing kind of support, which is great. And I think the point you make is really important, that it's not just about getting financial assistance, but it's really about connecting with the people that love your work and being able to get some real-time feedback, give bonus content or whatever, and in return your fans and your supporters get that behind-the-scenes look into what you're creating. They get to ask questions or be involved somehow in the process, and they love that. Yeah,
it is a shame when you don't have the funds to put out, say, an album, or you've got money to sort of do it in a way that isn't going to give you the best results.
Yeah,
and sometimes you don't realise that there's 200 people waiting for you to put that album out.
yeah, that they'd love to hear.
So if there was a way for I had it described to me a long time ago. It's like someone will pay you $30 for your album. This was before Spotify. But someone will pay you $30 for your album. Imagine if there was, 500 people, let's just say thousands because it'd be easier for the maths, but let's just say there were 1,000 people that once your album was done would pay $30 for it. Well, what if you had that 30,000 to make the album?
Yeah.
And that's something that I've noticed musicians are still doing today.
Yeah.
And fans get it.
Yeah.
Your mum and your dad and your cousins mightn't understand that economy, but fans understand it.
Yeah.
And they're more than happy to help you get something across the line.
Yeah. Well, for the fans, it's it's an opportunity to be involved and be a part of something.
Part of it. That's right.
To go with my help, this artist can get their work out. Like, that's incredible.
It's so good. I remember being part of Friends of the Ends, which was the fan club for Split Ends, and just being a part of that and getting the occasional update. It made you feel like an insider and that you were, definitely part of that family.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great.
Yeah. The next thing we can touch on is teaching and mentoring. So there's lots of opportunities for artists to teach, to get some kind of educational position. There's online classes, there's private tutoring, all those sorts of things. And some of the benefits of that, like you're getting that more regular income stream, but you're also able to inspire and educate others. And also, if you teach something, it really refines your own skills. As soon as you've got to teach somebody something, you sort of have to know your stuff, and it kind of makes you feel like you're more in touch with it, or you're more on top of it in certain subject areas. I know the different times I've talked about writing or whatever, all of a sudden I feel like I'm more of an authority on the subject rather than a perpetual student myself, which I always feel like anyway. But yeah, being a teacher, it sort of flips you around a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. And it's a strange thing to on one hand know that you never stop learning. And then on the other hand, to be teaching, it's something that needs to be reconciled within yourself. I know one of the ways I did it was to try and teach students to never stop learning, to sort of teach themselves rather than just relying on me to give them as much as they can work on for a week. It was like trying to have this much bigger picture of a commitment to the art form, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that was one way that I tried to do it. And I think what that also did, it highlighted for me the students that were more on the same level.
Yeah.
Regardless of skill.
Yeah. Some other areas that you can focus on teaching would be coaching and consultancy. So that might even fit in with some of the sort of freelance work we were talking about earlier. You could develop online courses. There's platforms like Skillshare and Teachable that allow you to reach a global audience and to really market yourself in that way. And you can just kind of go local as well, talk to schools and organisations and offer to do like guest lecturing or one-off workshops or that sort of thing. There's a bunch of different community groups that can really benefit by their local artists coming in and sharing the skills and sharing their work. Well, the next thing we could talk about is I guess the mix of working a day job that has literally nothing to do with your art and just using that as a way to fund life and then being able to fit your art in. So there's lots of part-time jobs, lots of flexible kind of day jobs, and you can find jobs that are in creative industries. There's teaching art classes, working in a gallery, that kind of thing, so that you can sort of align your passion with your day job in some regards. And depending on your situation, you'll be seeking out different things, like maybe it's something with flexible hours, something in retail or hospitality that allows you to shift your schedule around to make room for your art.
Well, casual employment has always been popular among artists.
Yeah.
And I think the reason is if you're in a job that is closely related to what you do, then that can be a challenge for lots of different reasons. But if you, say, are working at a restaurant and you've got casual hours, you can say no to things. You can take that week off because you're going on tour, or you can not take the Friday shift because you've got a gig that night, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And of course,
definitely.
in the post-COVID times, it's been quite perilous because a lot of those jobs, and I mean a lot of those jobs, have disappeared.
Yeah. It's like the gigging jobs sort of disappeared at the same time all the hospitality jobs did as well. So
Yeah.
both of your income streams
exactly. Both
died, yeah.
Both took a massive hit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had a gig a couple of weeks ago at a winery. The first time I played there, loads of people, a great vibe, loads of people. The next time I played there, it was a completely different scene. And so they've had to now cut back on how many times they have the cellar door open because of the unpredictability and uncertainty.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, times have definitely changed in that way, especially, the out and about physical people going out. I think our online lives are so demanding that our real life lives.
But just working out the habits and the movement of people is just not as easy as it used to be.
No, definitely not. I know it's a challenge for many industries there. I was thinking about a lecturer of mine actually who is an incredible writer and first class sort of academic. She's a PhD and she's got a family. But being an academic is another industry that is really hard to work in. Like, you work so incredibly hard to get to the absolute top of your field and then get employed by like one of the greatest universities, in the country or whatever. And then the wages are rubbish and the conditions are terrible because you sort of get employed for a semester and then you have no idea whether you're going to be employed again the next semester, and there's these big gaps in between. So, for people just trying to pay the mortgage and so on, it can be really difficult. And she was talking to me about thinking about working in a bookstore because you go, well, there's a fit, she's a writer, be great. But you know what, even working in a bookstore, she had obviously the qualifications and then some, but being a bookseller at the moment, you pretty much have to have a master's degree at the least to be able to do that. And that's then just getting retail sort of wages and conditions like casual work.
So to work at a bookstore just behind the counter to sell a book, to sell the latest cooking book or whatever, you need to have a master's.
Definitely in like the readings bookstore, like the sort of the bookstores that rate themselves as bookstores. Yes, absolutely. Maybe the QBDs and so on, maybe not so much. But yeah, it's, and if you
even
wanted,
though the job's the same.
Yeah, and if you wanted more of a role like being able to, for instance, book an author to do their book launch at your bookstore, or figure out how much shelf space you want to give to certain genres or certain books, you need all kinds of backgrounds of marketing plus literature, this, that and the other. So, it's ridiculously competitive, and it's great because there's some beautiful bookstores out there and, very well-read booksellers who know a lot. But it's just such a competitive space. Like, how do artists make a living? And this particular woman that I was talking to, she was like, I could try to go for this retail job to get a retail wage to try to keep food on the table in between, all the demands of academic life. But surely I've worked this hard and given enough, sacrificed enough to be the artist that I am for more than a retail job. You know, surely there's more out there for me than that. Like that was where she was just like, I just don't think I can do this. It's just too depressing.
There's a bookstore in the UK that you can apply to go there and live there for a month and run it.
Can we
It
do
looks
that?
really appealing, but I don't think they'd care whether you had a master's or not.
Yeah,
but still
maybe
the same. Yeah,
Yeah.
the same problem exists for her, is that she's super overqualified to be working in retail.
Yeah.
What's also interesting in that is we certainly view academics with prestige. Like if you hear that someone's a lecturer at Melbourne Uni, like no one is frowning upon that. Everyone's going, wow, like you must really know your stuff.
Accolades, yep.
So you just wouldn't think that was a position that held so much uncertainty
Yeah.
with it, and
It's,
and be so financially unstable.
yep. Yeah.
That is quite shocking.
It is. Yeah. It's really shocking and very difficult. And yeah,
And it's not new.
no, it's not new. I was very fortunate to know a number of just incredible writers and academics while I was studying at Melbourne Uni. And yeah, I think this is a thing. You want people like that to be free to like just keep going. Like what more can you explore? What more knowledge can you bring? What other sort of endeavours can you do? Because you're so good at what you do. You know, you want them to be able to just continue to make that contribution to the arts or to their area of, academia, I suppose, like, because it's obviously not just artistic academics, it's across the board, the sciences and everything. You want them to be able to keep on contributing. But if they're just going through the summer holidays going, man, we don't even know if we've got a job next semester, we can't take anything else on because we've got to be free for this opportunity, but yet we've still got to like try to take the kids camping. We can't even afford it. Like, it just gets hard. It's very, very hard. So anyway, that's yeah.
So let's just finish it there.
The only other one I was going to mention was working actually just a very full-time steady job, just doing that like in any job and keeping your art separate. And I had a lovely friend back in the day when I was a postie for a short time in my life. There was a really lovely man, his name was Neil, and he was helping me at the time. I was studying acting or, studying drama, and I was running a little community theatre group in the church, and he was so generous with his time. He worked as a postie. We worked as posties together, and he was an older guy, but he did a lot of work at local theatre, the Shirley Burke Theatre in Parkdale when we used to live down there, and he would put on productions and so on. He was always like auditioning for parts, or he would be the director, or he'd be, I don't know, the lighting director for that particular thing. Like
your nephew at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep, he does a heap of theatre work, yeah.
Our nephew.
Yeah, I was gonna pull you up on that. Our nephew, yeah. Shout out to our nephew Tom, who's about to become a father. So it's very exciting. But yeah,
he will be by the time it's
launched.
This episode goes to air, I think.
Well, welcome, little baby. We can't wait to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah. This friend of mine, Neil, we were just obviously the entire work floor of the post office community complained about their job all the time. And I one time said to Neil, have you ever thought of doing acting like full-time or taking that more seriously? Like, why are you a postie?
I thought you were going to say, have you ever thought about putting on a production for the team?
What, to lift morale and make us all be happier? I can see how.
Got to send out that mail, get back for our mealie.
Oh, that would go down like a lead balloon.
Who was it that said if he was a puddle?
Was it Tony Toogood who you thinking about?
Tony Toogood. Yeah. Tony Toogood. He said he was so shallow you couldn't drown in him.
Yeah. Yep.
That's great.
Back in the day, the good characters.
He would have really appreciated a bit of song and dance routine on the floor of the post office. The
guys in the post office didn't appreciate anything. I remember one morning we had we had to stop work for the entire morning because we had a professional development thing. So half our work just got piled up for the day and we had to go in for this big safety briefing. And, this company had come in to do this safety thing, a great big talk. We had to answer questions, do this workshopping and whatnot. And then finally we were let out and able to go on with our job. And I saw my supervisor, Alex, walk out to the shed where we had all the bikes. He had his helmet undone. He had his boots unzipped. He was carrying too much mail. He chucked it all on. He didn't put on his high-vis vest.
This is after the OH&S meeting.
Yeah. He lit up a cigarette and then just
drove off.
Did a massive burnout out of the shed. And I was like, woo, there we go. That's how we do it, boys.
That neighbourhood lucky to receive their mail. It just sounded like hoodlums.
Yep, it was a bunch of hoodlums. So getting back to Neil, Neil was just a lovely guy. Yeah, and a career postie. Like he'd been there for many, many years. Like a lot of them. Yeah, like a lot of them. There was a lot of them that had just done it for like 20, 30 years. And I said to Neil, like, why are you doing this? You're so good at directing. You're a great actor. You've got all these skills. Like he just loved it. He had a property where he had some great big shipping containers just full of props and everything. He was so dedicated. And then he just said, but what would be the fun in that?
Yeah.
Like, then I would have to just be trying to take on acting jobs for money and I wouldn't just be able to do whatever I want with it. And that was his thinking, was just, go to work and then play.
Literally.
Yeah. So it really put on the plays. Yeah. So it was that real separation and his brain could do that. Like for him, that worked really well.
Yeah.
And I think all of us have to figure out what's the best mix for us or what's the best fit for us. And it changes over time sometimes.
It's like Neil listened to his careers teacher.
Yeah,
He's the only person in Australia that actually took on the advice of the careers teacher. Said, look, I know you're a real thespian and we've really enjoyed and appreciated all the work that you've done in the acting field at the school. However, it's not really a career. You can't really rely on that. So how about you look for some other gainful means of employment and just do that on the side? And he went, oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Pretty much.
And good on him. I take my hat off to him because I completely understand it and I can see how that is 100% valid thing to do. And that's...
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And I think if I could finish with a message, I think that would be the one, is that whatever blend you find that it works for you, that it is valid. And I think we can be really hard on ourselves as artists to go, oh, I'm not
totally.
I've settled for less or I haven't made it or whatever. But I think that we shouldn't be so hard on ourselves or on one another. So I think, we acknowledge the struggle and good on you. If you're an artist, keep going because it can feel really lonely, but you're not alone. We're all in it, sort of doing it.
But you could definitely feel like, and it actually could be true, that you're still trying to work out what that balance is.
Yeah.
And that is probably, when we say that's the life of an artist, that's probably what it is that you're continually trying to work out how to exist in the ebb and flow in a way that fulfills you. And I don't mean creatively just fulfills you. I mean spiritually, emotionally, mentally, where you feel like I'm doing this thing and I'm better off for it. And while I'm better for it, so is the world around me because I can input into it, you know. Like that seems to be part of the continual challenge and life of someone who's devoted their life to creative endeavour and to artistic endeavour.
I think so. And I think that's part of the nature of being an artist, is always looking ahead to the next thing, the next project, the next idea. And so perhaps we're also always looking ahead to go, oh, life will be better when, I make more money doing this or I can get that ideal job that fits in. But Yeah, let's just take a
Or I can just move to
moment.
the woods in a little log cabin and
that
be
sounds
self-sufficient and
Yeah,
but as long as I've got a really super
good
internet connection. Oh, well, we should end it there.
We'll leave it there.
And-
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. You can visit our Patreon page and become a patron. Patreon.com/Pain in the Arts Life. Or you can visit our website if you want to find out a bit more about the show. That is www.paininthearts.life. We'll see you next week.
Bye.